this video is about. She ordered a coffee, and the millionaire ordered the same, secretly watching her. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The bell above the door jingled as Clara stepped into the small coffee shop, her eyes immediately drawn to the rustic charm with which it was decorated. A blend of urban sophistication and cozy warmth, the cafe was a refuge from the cold autumn wind that whipped around the streets of downtown Seattle. Sunlight poured through the large glass window, illuminating the dust particles that danced lazily in the air. Clara inhaled deeply, savoring the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint scent of cinnamon and pastries. It was the kind of place where time seemed to slow down, where the bustle of the outside world was softened by the gentle hum of conversation and the comforting sound of steaming milk. She walked to the counter, her brown leather boots scuffing lightly against the polished wooden floor. A chalkboard menu hung above the barista, listing an array of coffee specialties, but Clara's mind was set. "One medium caramel macchiato, please," she said, her voice steady yet warm. As she waited, Clara's mind wandered. She had recently moved to the city, seeking a fresh start after her last relationship imploded spectacularly. The vibrant chaos of Seattle felt exhilarating yet daunting, and she often found herself wrestling with the duality of hope and anxiety. Sipping coffee had become her daily ritual, a small indulgence amid the uncertainties that lay before her. The barista, a cheerful woman with a pixie haircut and a contagious smile, began preparing Clara's drink. Clara's gaze drifted to the window, where the street was alive with people rushing past, wrapped in their own worlds. It was then that she felt a presence beside her, a subtle shift in the air that made her turn her head. He stood there, tall and commanding, with dark hair that tousled just enough to seem effortless. A tailored navy blazer hugged his broad shoulders, and tailored trousers accented long legs that seemed to stretch endlessly. And his eyes, oh, those stunning blue eyes, held a glint of something that startled her. Intensity, curiosity, whatever it was, it sent a shiver down her spine. "Same order," he said, his voice warm and deep, as if it belonged to a man who didn't just speak but crafted his words with care. Clara's breath hitched slightly. She felt exposed in the wake of his gaze, as if he could see through the carefully constructed walls she built around herself. "Must be a good choice then," she replied, forcing a smile, her heart racing. "I've had it a few times and it never disappoints." His lips curled into a smile, one that hinted at a shared joke she wasn't quite privy to. "I trust your judgment. I've been meaning to try something new, and it seems fortune has brought me here." "Fortune," Clara echoed, raising an eyebrow as she leaned against the counter, feeling the warmth radiating from the espresso machine. "Isn't that a bit dramatic for a coffee order?" "It's all about perspective," he said, his gaze steady on her. "Some would say chance encounters are the most extraordinary events of our lives." Clara chuckled softly, intrigued by his charm. "And who are you, the philosopher of caffeine?" "Just a guy with a penchant for good coffee and engaging conversations," he replied, tilting his head slightly as he returned her playful banter. "Name's Adrian, by the way." He extended his hand, the movement deliberate and inviting. "Clara," she said, taking his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm envelop her own. The small touch sent an electric current through her, igniting something deep inside that she had long thought extinguished. "A pleasure, Clara." His eyes sparkled as he held her gaze for a moment longer than necessary, and she could feel a magnetic pull between them, an invisible thread weaving them closer. It was unsettling yet exhilarating. The barista interrupted their moment, sliding Clara's drink across the counter. "One caramel macchiato," she announced cheerfully, breaking the spell that hung in the air. Perfect timing, Adrian said, his eyes still locked on Clara as she reached for her cup, fingers brushing against the ceramic. Do you mind if I join you? Clara hesitated, the thought of sharing coffee with a handsome stranger both thrilling and intimidating. Sure, why not? She replied, trying to sound casual, but her heart raced as they both moved to a small table tucked in the corner. As they settled into their seats, Clara couldn't help but notice how Adrian's presence filled the space around them. He seemed to command attention without trying, his confidence apparent in every movement. She wrapped her hands around her cup, feeling the heat seep into her palms as she searched for words. So what brings you to this little coffee haven? She asked, curious yet cautious. I've recently moved back to Seattle for work, he said, leaning back in his chair, a relaxed demeanor that contrasted with her own nervous energy. I've been away for a while, pursuing business ventures abroad. Business ventures? Clara inquired, intrigued. Sounds mysterious. Are you one of those tech millionaires? Adrian chuckled, the sound rich and infectious. Something like that, he said, waving his hand dismissively. Let's just say I've found my niche in the startup world, but I'm more interested in people than profits. People, Clara repeated, her interest piqued. What does that mean? He leaned in slightly, his expression earnest. People have stories, Clara. Every interaction, every encounter has the potential to teach us something about ourselves and each other. I find that far more valuable than any success I could achieve in business. She felt a flutter in her chest, his words resonating with her own experiences of moving to a new city, embracing the unknown. I get that, she admitted, lowering her eyes momentarily. I moved here seeking, well, something. A fresh start, perhaps. Fresh starts can be messy, Adrian said, his tone softening. But they're often the most beautiful when we allow ourselves to embrace the chaos. Clara looked up, surprised by how easily he read her. You're a deep thinker for a guy who just ordered coffee, she quipped, hoping to lighten the mood. I've been told that before, he replied, a playful glint in his eyes. But I can also enjoy the simple pleasures, like the perfect cup of coffee. He took a sip of his drink, the corner of his mouth lifting in satisfaction. For the next few minutes, they exchanged stories, laughter bubbling between them like the steam rising from their cups. Clara found herself captivated by his charisma, the way he spoke with passion about his work, and the insights he shared about the human experience. With each word, she felt the tension between them grow, a delicate balance of flirtation, and something deeper that neither of them dared to define just yet. What about you? Adrian asked, his gaze steady. What do you do when you're not navigating the chaos of a new city? I'm a graphic designer, Clara replied, her cheeks warming slightly at the personal disclosure. I love creating visuals that tell a story. It's my way of connecting with the world. Art is a powerful medium, he said, nodding appreciatively. It's a window into the soul, isn't it? Exactly, Clara said, feeling a sense of connection blossom. The conversation flowed seamlessly, each exchange weaving their lives together in a tapestry of dreams and desires. She hadn't realized how lonely she had felt until now, sitting across from someone who genuinely seemed to care about her thoughts and feelings. As they continued to talk, the world outside faded into the background, and the cafe's warmth wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Clara felt herself opening up, sharing her hopes and fears, revealing pieces of her heart she had shielded from others for too long. But just as the atmosphere thickened with unspoken possibilities, Clara caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window, her doubts, her fears, and the shadows of her past flickering at the edges. What was she doing? Was she really ready to embrace this chemistry, to allow someone in after everything she had been through? Before she could spiral into her thoughts, Adrian broke the momentary silence. You know, he said, leaning forward slightly. Sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most rewarding experiences. Clara met his gaze, her heart racing, unsure of how to respond. He seemed to understand the tension between them, the delicate balance of vulnerability and desire that hung in the air. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "Maybe this is one of those moments," she whispered, a small smile playing on her lips. "Maybe it is," he replied, his voice low and sincere, his eyes never leaving hers. In that small, cozy coffee shop, with the world outside blurring into a chaotic backdrop, Clara felt something shift within her. The barriers she had carefully constructed began to crumble, and in their place, the promise of a new beginning flickered to life, a spark that could either ignite a flame or leave her with ashes. The choice was hers, and she had a feeling that Adrian was going to be a significant part of her journey, wherever it might lead. As Clara sipped her caramel macchiato, its sweetness mingling with the warmth of the coffee shop, she caught Adrian's gaze flicker with something akin to admiration. Her heart fluttered at the attention, a sense of thrill coursing through her. He had a way of making even the most mundane moments feel electric. "What's your favorite place in Seattle so far?" he asked, leaning forward, his elbows resting on the table, an intensity in his blue eyes that made her feel both seen and vulnerable. "I haven't really explored much yet," she admitted, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. "But I love the waterfront. There's something about the water, it's calming and chaotic at the same time. I find it mesmerizing." "Do you like to be near the water?" Adrian probed, his interest clear. "Or is it more about the view?" "It's both, I suppose," she replied, her voice softening. "When I was younger, I spent summers at my grandparents' lake house. The water always felt like home. It was a place where I could escape the noise of the world." "Sounds idyllic," he said, his gaze thoughtful. "I can see how that would shape your connection to it. I've always found that water has its own stories, just like people do." Clara raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And what stories do you think the water tells?" "Perhaps it speaks of journeys," he mused, his tone thoughtful, "of the paths we take, the changes we endure. Like how it can be tranquil one moment and tempestuous the next. It mirrors our lives, don't you think?" She nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his words. "Yes, absolutely. Like relationships, they ebb and flow, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent." The admission hung in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement of the fragility she felt after her past. Adrian studied her for a moment, his expression shifting from contemplative to something more vulnerable. "That's true. Relationships are a risk. They can bring joy but also heartache." His voice lowered, the intimacy of the moment wrapping around them like a warm embrace. "I've had my share of both." "What happened?" Clara asked, the curiosity bubbling up despite herself. She knew she was treading into personal territory, but there was a sincerity in Adrian's eyes that invited her to dig deeper. He sighed, running a hand through his dark hair, a gesture that seemed to betray the weight he carried. "Let's just say I was young and naive. I fell hard for someone who didn't have the same intentions as me. It was messy. I learned that passion can be blinding." "I get that," Clara said softly, her heart aching for him. "It's painful to invest so much in someone only to realize it wasn't what you thought. I went through something similar not long ago." "What happened?" Adrian's eyes softened with empathy. She hesitated, her mind racing through memories that felt both fresh and distant. "I thought he was everything I wanted," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "We had this intense connection, but it turned out to be more infatuation than love. He wasn't ready for something serious, and, well, it fell apart." "That's hard," he said gently, his gaze unwavering. "But I admire your courage for wanting to start anew. It takes strength to open up again after experiencing that kind of hurt." Clara looked down at her cup, swirling the remnants of her drink. I guess I'm just trying to find my footing again. Seattle is a fresh start, but it's also terrifying. I can relate, he said, a hint of a smile teasing his lips. Sometimes it feels like we're all just trying to navigate through our own storms, isn't it? But the beauty is in the discovery, in finding those little moments that make it worthwhile. She met his gaze and a warmth blossomed in her chest. You have a way with words, Adrian. You seem to see the world differently. He chuckled, a rich sound that filled the space between them. Or maybe I just talk too much. His expression turned playful, teasing the tension that had been building. But seriously, I believe we all have stories worth sharing. It's what connects us, you know. I agree, Clara replied, feeling emboldened by their shared vulnerability. It's the stories that make us who we are, and sometimes it takes someone special to help us tell them. Someone special, huh? He said with a sly grin, his eyes dancing with mischief. Are you suggesting I'm special? Maybe, she teased back, her cheeks warming slightly. But that's for me to decide as I get to know you better. Adrian leaned back, a satisfied smirk on his lips. Challenge accepted. I look forward to impressing you, Clara. His gaze held hers, the air between them thick with unspoken possibilities. The bell above the door chimed again, breaking the spell that had woven itself around them. A group of loud college students burst in, laughter echoing as they ordered their drinks. The familiar sounds of the cafe flooded back, and Clara felt a pang of disappointment that their moment had shifted. Shall we continue our conversation elsewhere? Adrian suggested, his voice warm with consideration. I know a nearby park that's lovely this time of year. The trees are ablaze with color, and it might provide some inspiration for that graphic design work you do. Clara's heart raced at the thought of extending their time together. That sounds lovely, she replied, a smile brightening her face. I'd like that. Great, Adrian said, standing up and offering his hand to her with a casual grace. Clara hesitated for a heartbeat, then took his hand, feeling a rush of warmth at the touch, the simple act igniting a spark of excitement. As they stepped out of the cafe, the crisp autumn air enveloped them, invigorating and fresh. Clara glanced up at the sky, a canvas of cobalt blue sprinkled with clouds, the sun glinting through the branches of the trees lining the street. So where are you from? Adrian asked as they strolled down the sidewalk, the rhythm of their footsteps in sync. I grew up in a small town outside of Portland, she replied, glancing sideways at him. It was beautiful but limiting. I always felt the urge to explore, to experience more of what life had to offer. Exploration has its costs, though, Adrian said, his tone shifting slightly. Leaving behind what's familiar can be daunting. It is, Clara admitted, her eyes drifting to the ground. But sometimes, facing that fear is what leads to the most rewarding moments in life. He paused, stopping in front of a vibrant tree, its leaves a fiery orange. Like this tree, it had to let go of its old leaves to grow anew. Nature has a way of teaching us, doesn't it? Clara smiled, touched by the metaphor. It does. It reminds us that change is necessary for growth. Exactly, he said, his gaze steady on her. And sometimes the most beautiful things arise from the chaos. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, Clara felt the weight of everything they had shared, a connection that felt both instant and profound. She couldn't help but wonder what might blossom between them if she let the walls she had built come crumbling down. Shall we continue our exploration? Adrian asked, gesturing toward the park ahead. Absolutely. Clara smiled, a thrill of anticipation surging through her. As they walked side by side, the distance between them diminished, and with every shared glance and soft laugh, she felt the edges of her heart soften, the possibility of something new unfurling within her. As they entered the park, The kaleidoscope of autumn colors enveloped them. Clara felt a surge of exhilaration, her senses alive with the energy of the moment. The world outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, two souls embarking on a journey that neither of them had expected but both secretly yearned for. "Tell me about your dreams, Clara," Adrian said, his voice soft yet insistent. "What do you hope to achieve as a graphic designer?" Clara took a breath, momentarily caught off guard by the sincerity in his question. "I want to create designs that resonate, that evoke emotions and tell stories," she replied, her passion bubbling to the surface. "I want my work to connect with people, to inspire them in some way." "That's beautiful," he said, his eyes warm with admiration. "You have a gift for expression, and I can see that passion radiating from you." "Thank you," she said, her heart fluttering at his compliment. "What about you? What are your dreams?" Adrian paused, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I want to make an impact in the world, to create opportunities for others. It's not just about building businesses, it's about fostering relationships and community." "Sounds like a noble pursuit," Clara said, genuinely impressed. "It's refreshing to meet someone who prioritizes connection over just profit." "It's easy to forget what truly matters," he replied, his tone serious. "But in the end, it's the people we connect with that leave the most significant mark on our lives." As they ventured deeper into the park, the vibrant leaves crunched beneath their feet, the air fragrant with the scent of damp earth and fallen foliage. Clara felt a sense of serenity wash over her, the chaos of the past few months easing as she and Adrian walked side by side. The park was alive with the sounds of laughter from children playing on the nearby playground and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. It felt like a world apart from the bustling city beyond the tree line. "Have you always wanted to be a graphic designer?" Adrian asked, his tone casual yet genuinely curious. They found a bench beneath a sprawling maple tree, its branches stretching out like welcoming arms. As they settled, he leaned slightly toward her, making the space between them feel charged with a quiet intimacy. "Pretty much," Clara replied, her heart warming at the attention he gave her. "I remember sketching in my notebooks as a kid, creating these elaborate worlds and characters. I was always drawing something. It wasn't until high school that I realized I could turn that passion into a career." Her fingers subconsciously traced the rim of her coffee cup, the warmth still lingering within. "But it wasn't easy to convince myself to pursue it, especially coming from a small town where art wasn't exactly seen as a viable path." "I get that," he said, his eyes focused on her, a hint of empathy in his voice. "I grew up in a similar environment. My parents wanted me to follow a traditional career path, law or finance, something stable. But I've always been drawn to innovation, to pushing boundaries. It took me a while to find my own voice, too." Clara glanced up, intrigued. "What was that journey like for you?" Adrian shifted slightly, his expression thoughtful. "It was a mix of exploration and failure, really. I took risks that didn't always pay off, and for a long time I felt like I was just chasing something I couldn't quite define. But every setback brought me closer to understanding what I truly wanted, creating something that mattered." "Do you feel like you found that now?" she asked, her voice soft with interest. He nodded, a faint smile gracing his lips. "I think so. I've learned that true fulfillment comes from aligning your work with your values. It's not just about success, it's about making a difference in people's lives." There was a sincerity in his gaze that made Clara feel seen, as if her own aspirations were worthy of being valued. "I admire that," she said, unable to hide the warmth creeping into her voice. "It's rare to find someone who balances ambition with compassion." "Thank you," he replied, his smile broadening. "It's easy to lose sight of what really matters in the pursuit of success, but I believe that connection is the key to everything." He leaned in slightly, his expression earnest. "And I'm grateful for moments like this, where we can share our stories and inspire one another." Clara felt a flutter of excitement at his words, as if a spark had ignited somewhere deep within her. "I've enjoyed this so much more than I ever expected," she admitted, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's refreshing to have a conversation with someone who understands that connection is important. Sometimes it takes stepping out of our comfort zones to discover those connections," Adrian replied, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "It's a risk, but one worth taking." Just then, a gust of wind swept through the park, sending a shower of leaves cascading around them like confetti. Clara laughed, instinctively lifting her arms to catch a few as they fluttered down. "Look at that," she said, her laughter ringing through the air. "Nature's celebration of our newfound friendship." Adrian chuckled, his gaze softening as he watched her. "A fitting metaphor, I'd say. Here we are, two people navigating the chaos of life, finding joy in the unexpected." He reached out, gently brushing a leaf from her hair, the touch lingering longer than necessary. Clara felt the warmth of his hand, a magnetic pull between them that made her breath catch. "Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something," she said, her voice teasing yet hopeful. "Perhaps it's nudging us toward something more." His gaze darkened momentarily, filled with an intensity that left her breathless. "Maybe it is," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a shared secret. "But what do we do with that? Do we embrace the possibility?" Clara's heart raced at the implication in his words, the tension between them palpable. "That's the question, isn't it?" she replied, her heart pounding as she met his gaze. "Opening up to someone can be scary after everything I've been through." Adrian's expression softened, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. "Trust is a delicate thing, but sometimes taking a leap of faith can lead to incredible places." His voice was steady, as if he were offering her a lifeline. "I want to believe that," she admitted, her heart swelling with a mix of hope and trepidation. "But I can't help but wonder if it's worth the risk." "It's always worth the risk," he said, his voice sincere. "Life is made up of moments like this, moments that challenge us to grow and connect. You deserve to feel that, Clara." The air between them thickened, a tension that crackled with unspoken possibilities. Clara felt her walls begin to tremble, the tiny fissures allowing the light of connection to seep through. "You're right," she whispered, a breathless admission that felt like an act of bravery. "Maybe I'm ready to embrace the chaos." Adrian's expression brightened, a genuine smile breaking free as if her words had dispelled the shadows lingering between them. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, leaning closer, the distance between them collapsing. "Let's navigate this together then." Just as Clara was about to respond, the sound of laughter from a nearby group of children broke the moment, reminding them of the world around them. A pang of disappointment flickered through her, but Adrian's gaze remained steady on her, grounding her in the present. "Let's take a walk," he suggested, extending his hand toward her. "There's a beautiful overlook at the end of the path. I think you'll love it." Clara hesitated only for a moment before placing her hand in his, feeling an exhilarating rush at the simple contact. Together, they walked along the winding trail, their fingers brushing against each other, sending tiny shockwaves of warmth through her. "Tell me more about your graphic design work," Adrian said, his interest genuine as they strolled through a canopy of colors. "What inspires you?" "Life mostly," she replied, her thoughts flowing freely now. "I find inspiration in the little things, everyday moments that tell a bigger story. I love capturing emotions in my work, making people feel something real." "That's a beautiful philosophy," he said, glancing sideways at her as they walked. "I can see that passion reflected in your eyes, even when you talk about it." "Thank you," Clara said, warmth flooding her cheeks. "It means a lot to share this with someone who genuinely cares." Adrian's fingers brushed against hers again, and Clara felt her heart race. The chemistry crackled between them, electric and undeniable. Just as she was about to lean into the moment, she caught sight of the overlook ahead, its view framed by the vibrant foliage. "Wow," she breathed, stepping forward to take in the breathtaking sight. The water stretched out like a shimmering mirror, reflecting the colorful tapestry of trees lining the shore. "This is stunning. Just like you," Adrian said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara's breath caught at the unexpected compliment, her heart racing as she turned to face him. "You don't have to flatter me," she said, half teasing, half honest, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's not flattery if it's the truth," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "I see you, Clara, and I find your spirit enchanting." Her cheeks flushed with warmth, a mix of embarrassment and exhilaration washing over her. "I'm just me," she said, smiling shyly. "Nothing more." "That's the beauty of it," he said, stepping slightly closer, the space between them charged with an undeniable chemistry. "You don't have to be anything more than who you are." In that moment, as they stood at the edge of the world, Clara felt a shift within her. The walls she had built began to crumble, allowing the light of possibility to seep through. Perhaps this was the beginning of something new, something profound. "Maybe we can explore this connection further," Clara suggested, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "I would like that," Adrian replied, a smile breaking across his face. "I think we could create something beautiful together." As they stood there, the cool breeze rustling the leaves around them, Clara felt a deep sense of excitement mixed with fear. But for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. With Adrian by her side, she sensed that the chaos of life might just lead to the most extraordinary adventure yet. The park was a symphony of autumn colors, and as Clara stood there, the view sprawling out before her, she felt excitement bubbling up within her. The lake shimmered beneath the fading sunlight, reflecting hues of orange and gold that mirrored the leaves surrounding them. For a moment, the world felt perfectly still, as if time had paused to allow her to savor this breath of beauty. "So beautiful, isn't it?" Adrian said, standing beside her. His voice was low, almost reverent as he gazed out over the water. "It's breathtaking," Clara replied softly, her heart swelling at the sight. "It's moments like this that make me feel alive, like I can breathe again." Adrian turned to her, his eyes searching her face. "I can see that. There's something about being surrounded by nature that puts things into perspective, don't you think?" "Absolutely," Clara said, her heart pounding slightly under his gaze. "It reminds us of the bigger picture. Life can feel chaotic, but nature has its own rhythm, its own order." She looked out again, lost in thought. "Sometimes I wish I could find that same rhythm in my life." "Finding balance can be a challenge," Adrian agreed, stepping a little closer. "But I believe it's possible. It just takes time and maybe a little support along the way." She turned to him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "You seem to have a lot of wisdom about these things. Do you often find yourself reflecting on life's deeper meanings during your coffee breaks?" He chuckled, the sound rich and warm. "Not always, but when I do, I try to make it count. Life is short, and I've learned that every moment is precious. It's about making connections, experiencing the highs and the lows, and everything in between." Clara felt a flutter in her chest. His words resonated deeply, echoing the very struggles she had been facing. "You're right," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's about embracing the chaos and finding beauty within it." "Exactly," Adrian replied, his gaze steady. "Sometimes the most profound connections blossom in unexpected places, just like this one." He gestured between them, a playful smile tugging at his lips. Unexpected connections. She echoed, a teasing lilt in her voice. Are we really that extraordinary? Absolutely. Adrian's eyes sparkled. There's an undeniable energy here, Clara. It's as if the universe conspired to bring us together over coffee and a shared love for beautiful views. Clara felt warmth flood her cheeks, a mix of excitement and shyness. You have a way of making everything sound poetic, she said, half joking. But I can't deny that I feel it too, this strange pull between us. It's not strange, Adrian replied, his expression earnest. It's human. We crave connection, and when we find someone who resonates with us, it's only natural to lean into it. She nodded, her heart racing. I want to lean into it. I want to embrace this, whatever this is. Adrian's smile widened and she felt a surge of courage. But I have to ask, Adrian, what if it all goes wrong? What if we're just two people caught in the moment, and when the dust settles, we're left with nothing? His expression shifted, becoming serious. Then we learn from it. Every experience, even the painful ones, teaches us something. But I believe that if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to something potentially beautiful. Clara looked down, chewing her bottom lip as she processed his words. She had spent so long guarding herself, fearing the pain of another heartbreak, but somewhere deep within her, a flicker of hope ignited. You make it sound so easy, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's not easy at all. Adrian's tone softened, filled with genuine understanding. It's terrifying, but it's also exhilarating, and I think that's what makes it worth it. Maybe you're right, she said, meeting his gaze, the intensity between them palpable. But how do we know if we're ready to take that leap? Adrian took a step closer, his voice low and earnest. Trust your instincts, Clara. If you feel that pull, if you're willing to explore the possibility, then let's see where it takes us. Her heart raced at his words. It was a leap of faith, but in that moment, standing at the edge of the world with him, she felt ready to jump. Okay, she said, her voice steady. Let's do this. Together, he asked, his eyes searching hers for confirmation. Together, she affirmed, a smile breaking across her face. Adrian grinned, and in that instant, the tension that had been building between them transformed into something electric. He reached out, taking her hand gently, his fingers intertwining with hers. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her, igniting sparks of anticipation that danced between them. Come on, let's keep walking, he said, leading her along the path. Their fingers remained linked, and Clara felt as though they were embarking on a journey that was just beginning. As they strolled, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything. They shared laughter and stories, each revelation drawing them closer. Clara found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected, revealing bits of her past, her dreams, and her fears, all while Adrian listened intently. What about you? She asked, her curiosity piquing once more. What's been the biggest challenge in your life so far? Adrian hesitated for a moment, his expression thoughtful. I'd say learning to navigate the balance between ambition and personal life. I've sacrificed a lot in the name of success, and in doing so, I've lost sight of what truly matters. I can relate, Clara said, her voice soft. It's so easy to get caught up in work and the hustle. Sometimes I wonder if I've missed out on what really counts. Adrian nodded, his gaze serious. I've come to realize that success without genuine connection feels hollow. That's why I want to make a difference, not just in my career, but in the lives of those around me. There was a sincerity in his voice that made Clara's heart swell. It's admirable, she said, her eyes locking onto his. You have such a good heart, Adrian. Thank you, he smiled, a warmth radiating from him that made her feel safe. And I see that same passion in you. You're creative, compassionate, and willing to take risks. Those qualities are rare and beautiful. They stopped again, facing one another, the world around them fading into the background. Clara felt a rush of warmth at his words, the way he saw her so clearly. "You really think so?" she asked, a bit shyly. "I know so," he replied firmly, his blue eyes piercing through the haze of doubt. "And I want to encourage you to embrace that magic. Let it guide you." Clara's heart raced, the air between them thickening with unspoken possibilities. In that moment, she felt the walls around her heart begin to dissolve, allowing the light of connection to seep in. "I want to," she whispered, her voice filled with sincerity. Adrian stepped closer, the space between them narrowing. "Then let's explore this together," he said softly. "Let's take the leap and see where it leads us." Her breath caught in her throat as she met his gaze, feeling an undeniable pull drawing them together. "I'd like that," she whispered, the words escaping her lips like a prayer. In that moment, everything else faded away, the noise of the world, the chaos of life, leaving only the two of them, standing on the edge of something extraordinary. Clara felt a thrill wash over her, a sense of hope and possibility blooming within her heart. As they stood there, hands entwined, the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a warm glow over them. Clara knew they were at the beginning of a journey, a path filled with uncertainty, but also brimming with potential. Together, they would navigate the chaos, unveiling the beauty hidden within each moment. "Together," she affirmed, her heart racing as she leaned closer, feeling the magnetic energy between them pulsing with life. "Together," Adrian echoed, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the sunset, and perhaps the warmth of what was to come. The world around them faded into a blur, leaving only the promise of new beginnings and the thrilling chaos of connection.